All right, so just a few things here. So we have some things that we want to go over. So the automatic fails, obviously, if you're out on the road, if you hit a curb, it's going to be a problem, okay? And then if you're out on the road and you jump out in traffic and you force someone to slow down for you or stop for you because you weren't observant, you could potentially fail, or cause an accident. So running a light, be aware that the lights are going to turn amber. And so as you're kind of going up to a lighted intersection, just kind of let off the gas a little bit, look to the left, to the right. If you still have the light and the coast is clear, go ahead and soar on through and then watch your back end or your trailer come through. All right? And then speeding or the lack of speed. So if you're hesitant or nervous or whatever, they would say that, well, maybe you just need more experience. Okay, you're not confident behind the wheel. Or maybe you're just a little complacent. Well, I drive this fast every single day. So you can't do it on the test, okay? So what we recommend is if you see the speed limit sign, try to go about 5 under that speed limit. So somewhere between 5 under and the actual speed limit. Remember, that's the speed limit, not the speed you have to do. Make sense? All right, so then, double turns. So what they mean by that is that most of us are just gonna see a double left to left, basically. So what that means for you is you're gonna be in the center lane or the outmost lane, and it's kind of like the left to the outside right lane next to the curb. Okay, so that's for your trailer. Or if you're a box truck, that's for the back end of your truck to come around. You can come in front, come on this way, yeah, don't be shy. And then obviously if you're manual, if you stall the motor like 2 times, so that's pretty much game over, okay? So on these old Internationals, they have the shifter like right here, and the ignition key is right here. So when you have to go to reverse, you bring it to your knee and go, oh, just turned off the truck. So what I recommend that you do is just grab it like this and go like this. Fingers out, so that way you're not knuckling next to the ignition key and stalling the motor. Make sure you latch that hood. So we've had a few guys that have forgot to latch the hood and they don't see the road. They kind of failed their test right there. And then when you're going into and out of the vehicle, it's kind of like a ladder. When I'm exiting the vehicle, I'm going to be facing the cab. So I got my back end to the wind, just like on a ladder. Same deal when I'm going up. Back into the wind, face into the cab. Okay? So if they feel like you're actually exiting the vehicle unsafely, that could be a problem or a fail. Okay? All right. So who here is, well, let's just kind of go over this right here. So when you come into Arden Hills here, you can park anywhere there's a non-yellow curb. If this lot is full. This is the only lot that we get as customers here at the DMV. It's strange, I know. The employees get a bigger lot. It's government. So, and I'm just playing around. And park right here if you can, and then just walk across. And on the back side of the building, check in here. They just want to see have your permit and your license. You don't need to have your med card at that time. When you do process your license, your CDL, you can do a waiver, but at some point in time, they'll do a med card. So
you already have it,
just bring it. Yep, and you'll fill out the form, and they'll keep record of it. All right. Once you check in, once you check in right here, you just walk over that way. All the Internationals are manuals. All the Fords are automatics. Okay. So if you see a Ford, it's an automatic. See an International, it's a manual. Any questions? Okay. So after you're done with that pre-trip too as well, what they'll do is most will actually have you do a sharp left turn right here. You go all the way down this way, all the way over here, and get ready for the backup maneuvers, or the basic road skills, that's what they call it. So right here, if you can all see, the very first one that you're gonna do is kind of a straightforward and stop. You're not allowed to roll down the window, stick your head out, or do anything. In fact, rolling the window down, sticking your head out, and looking out the window, they consider that a look, or get out and look, in other words. So on some of these exercises, you're only allowed either 2 of those or 1 of those, okay? So if you got that habit of doing that, you can't do that, okay? So the first one is the straightforward and stop. So you're going to kind of drive straight forward this way and then stop within this box. So they have black lines right here, but it's going to be, I think it's painted orange lines at Arden Hills right here. You'll pull forward and stop at the frontmost part of your truck, which is usually just kind of like the peak end of the bumper. So you'll stop within this box. Once you stop within that box, you put it in neutral, pull the parking brake, and honk your horn, then it's done. So if you're pulling up this way, you can kind of come up this way and then kind of creep up, maybe stop a little bit, but kind of creep up, kind of kiss the brake pedal a little bit, kind of creep up that way, kind of see where you're at, kind of come to a stop. If you have to bounce it up a little bit, that's fine. You're complete when you put it in neutral, pull the parking brake, and honk your horn. Okay? So and hopefully they play by those rules because that's the way it's written. All right? So then, and after that, after you do the straightforward, you're going to pull all the way through and then do a straight back. All right? So straight back is they'll line up the back of your trailer right here, and you'll go straight back all the way through until the nose of your truck is past this cone. You start straight, end straight. On this one, you're allowed one get out and look if you need it, and also one free pull up. Right? So, but if you do more than one free pull up, you run the risk of failing because they'll feel like you're not proficient. So try to do this within the parameters of that one free pull up and then also in all these exercises, they really want to see you using the mirrors. So if you're one of those guys that go to the lake every weekend and do this, that could be a problem. Okay? I'm not saying that you can't do that, but I don't think that's going to be kind of frowned upon. They don't think that's going to be proficient enough. So in addition to that, if you start doing more than the pull-ups, then they're going, well, you just probably get them more time. Okay. So then after that, then you do the forward, offset, and stop. Once you stop, you put it in neutral, pull the parking brake, and sound off the horn when you're done. It'll score you, and then we'll do the reverse one. On the reverse one, the rearmost part, like those valances back there, those have to kind of stop just before those last cones. Right there. Once you stop, then you send go neutral, pull the parking brake, honk the horn, done deal. But you get out and looks. So don't be that guy that is like super confident. We've had a few of them that does that. It's like, oh, I'm in the box, and does that and honks, and he's like 3 feet away from the box. Okay. So just wait, just use your get out and looks on this one. I highly encourage that you do that. You're allowed 2 pull-ups on this one. And try not to overbend your trailer. Okay. So that kind of takes care of what you might experience on the course. Once you're done with the backups here, in many cases, they're going to take you up here and you're just going to go out on the road and do your road time. You'll be with the examiner for about 30 minutes on the road, doing high-speed lane changes, driving around town, stopping where you need to stop, make sure that you stop 3 feet before the stop sign, make sure that you stop so you can see the bottom edge of the crosswalk, make sure that when you do stop, the stop is when it kicks back and you look again. And I'm driving down the road, I want to read the signs that are near me, I want to read those signs that are far away from me, and then I want to see what my trailer or my rear end's doing, side to side. And I'm going to do that every 12 seconds. So am I just doing, like some guys, I'm going to wear a baseball cap or a cowboy hat so I can go like this and this, and they say that I'm turning my head. I want the nose to the glass. You have to turn your body. Okay? I'm doing lane changes. I mean, I can go like this if I need to, like this. I have windows, I can go and use them that way when I'm out on the road. Okay? Always be mindful of the gap on your right and also your left. You still want to try to square off your turns. You don't want to be doing those diagonal turns. Because when you do those, you run the risk of hitting curbs or hitting cars. So you have to learn how to do these pretty button-up turns with your trailer, no jug handle turns, and all that stuff. You start on the right, and then the right. Same with the left, start on the left, and then the left. Okay? And oftentimes when you do those turns, because we have a trailer, let's say that someone stopped at the stop sign, and I have to make a right-hand turn, but that person's in my way. I might have to give up my right-of-way, and I might have to recognize that well before I come up there, because I see that person stopped there waiting for me, thinking that I can make that turn, but I can't. I'll stop well in advance, so they know that they can go, so I can use their road. Okay? And as I'm motoring down the way, I'm looking down that road before I even turn onto it to see what's in my way. So when I'm with you guys, a lot of times I just see you guys looking right forward. So don't do that. Just always be on full alert. Okay. If you're passive in the seat, you're not going to do very well on the test, but you're not going to do very well in life. You should be pretty active and pretty observant. All right. Any questions? Good. So you can stop that now. We'll do the pre-trip. All right. So kind of look at this as being one. I'm going to start from the front of the vehicle and work my way down this way. We have one. Who's the B guy? Okay. So obviously when we get to the trailer, you're welcome to listen in, but you don't need to. But if you have any questions, or maybe you just want to save that for a future date because you get your Class A, right? That's why I want to. All right. So you'll start up here and go here. This is one. And then two is here. Light operations check, and then three. So this order will make sense when we get to it. So starting with the front of the vehicle here, in the engine area, they have this thing called lenses. It might be a good idea, because everybody gets the engine compartment on this. It might be a good idea just to open up, unlatch that, but right now we're going to leave it closed. All right, so it might be a good idea just to go ahead and turn the wheels out towards the road and also have the latches unlatched. So right here it's lenses. So the lenses here, I'm looking at the plastic lenses on top of the cab, on the mirrors, and on the headlights right here. They're all clean, clear, not cracked. None are loose or missing at all. They're all securely mounted. I have the proper color, amber up here. Check. Okay. And then fluid levels. They want to talk about all the critical fluid levels. So I always pull from the front of the truck here, not from the sides. Lock it down, don't let it slam down. And then on this manual here, I'll point out all the critical fluid levels I'm going to check. I'm going to check the oil level right here. I'm going to check the power steering fluid here, and I'm going to check the coolant here. But starting with the oil level, I'm going to check it here when the engine's off. I'm going to remove that dipstick, wipe it clean, reinsert it, pull it back out. If it's below that fill line, I'm going to add it up there where that oil cap is right there. And then I'm going to check the coolant level right here when the engine's off. Should be above this add line and below this max line. I'm going to point to it. If you guys come around, you can see this. These lines on here. You can come in this way, Kevin. See? You know, point at these areas. So I'm going to check the coolant while the coolant is off. You can step back that way. And if it's low, I'm going to add it up here once more while the engine's off. The cap is probably not loose, not cracked or leaking. And I might even say that just for the fluid leaks and air leaks, okay? Just like I would do the oil. Power steering fluid right here, I'm going to check this. On the manual, I can do this while the engine's off. On the automatic, the reservoir is right in my face, and the third bullet point, it says check while the engine's running. So, well, actually that's on the Chevys. On the Fords, it's check while the engine's running. Check while the engine's off on the Internationals. All right, so I'm going to check this while the engine's off. It should be above this cold line and below this hot line. If it's below this cold line or the min line right here, I'm going to add power steering fluid here. I might do that while the engine's running. And that's all I have to do for critical fluid levels. Now, who's an automatic here? Raise your hand. We got one guy that's an automatic. You have a red dipstick that you'll point at, or actually in the Fords, it's on the passenger side, it's a yellow dipstick. You'll point to that and you'll say, I'm going to check that while the engine's running. So the yellow dipstick says transmission fluid, so you'll pull that out, wipe it clean, reinsert it, pull it back out. It should be above the fill line. If it's not, with a funnel, I'll have it right here. Okay. So then that takes care of the fluid levels. Now we got this thing called fluid and air leaks. So they want you to point out every single space in this truck where you might see a fluid or an air leak, all right? So starting on this side, these reservoirs, the reservoir right here and the reservoir right here, it's not cracked or bent or leaking at all. There's loose or missing hose clamps at all. The caps are tight, the seals are not cracked or leaking, the seals are not cracked or leaking up here at all. There's nothing cracked or leaking on the radiator here at all, nothing cracked or leaking on the front of the motor, the top of the motor. Nothing's dripping or puddling on the ground over here at all. Nothing's puddling or dripping underneath here, especially underneath that transmission. I don't want to see that. Also, nothing's puddling or dripping over this way. Come this way, Kevin. Nothing's puddling or dripping over this way. Nothing's puddling or dripping over this way at all. And then I'm going to raise my hand over here. I might feel some air leaks, or I might listen for some air leaks. I might smell for any burnt plastic or rubber, because I don't want that. That might indicate that something's touching a hot part or cracked or leaking. Nothing's leaking by the water pump there. Nothing's leaking by the radiator at all. And then I'll come back over on this side again. I mentioned that all these fluid and air lines right here that feed the compressor down there, they're securely mounted. There's no loose or missing clamps at all. They're not cracked, weathered, dry rot, leaking at all. I listen for air leaks and look for any liquid leaks. And that takes care of air leaks and fluid leaks. So we'll check it out. Move on, right? Next is the steering systems. Steering systems, what they're talking about is the steering box and these hoses. And the steering shaft, the pitman arm, and the drag link. So once more, the steering box and hoses, the steering shaft, pitman arm, and drag link. All right? So starting with the steering box and these hoses here, the steering box is secured to the frame of the truck. It's not sagging or loose. Why is that? Well, there's no missing nuts or bolts at all. All right? And the metal's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. It's not leaking here at the steering box at all. These hoses, there's no missing clamps at all. They're not dry rotted, bulging, cracked, or leaking at all. The steering box and these hoses are securely mounted. The steering shaft, the pitman arm, and the drag link, the metal's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. All right? There's no missing nuts or bolts here, here on the manuals and also the Fords. There's no missing castle nuts or cotter keys at all.
Can I get a picture of that?
Yeah, yes, you can. There's no missing castle nuts or cotter keys at all, right over here, or over there, over here.
Get where the castle nut is. Not finding it here.
Okay.
Come on. There it is. That's a castle nut and bolt.
Yep. All right. So then, so no missing castle nut or cotter key at all. It's also properly greased at its joints. And then when I twist the steering shaft by hand, there's no more than 10 degrees of play here, or 2 inches at the steering wheel.
Tim, do we have to point out every single part?
Yep.
Even like the cotter keys?
Yep. Yep. We do. So you have to understand what you. So they say that. So it's when you read the manual, it says I'm going to point to and explain and fully explain all the critical items. So in the steering systems, there's quite a few. Okay.
You put them out of me?
Yeah, I can do that. So here in the steering system, we have the steering box. We have these hoses. We have the steering shaft. We have the pitman arm. And we have the drag link. We have also castle nuts and cotter keys here, and castle nuts and cotter keys here. We'll talk about the nuts and bolts here and up here, the nuts and bolts here, and the nuts and bolts here. We'll talk about the metal here, the steering box. It's not cracked, bent, or dented. We'll mention the fact that it's nice and tight to the frame. It's not sagging or loose at all. Talk about the metal on here and here and here. It's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. And then no missing nuts or bolts, missing castle keys or cotter keys. It's also properly greased here, there, here, and up here. And then I twist this by hand. There's no more than 2 inches of play here. I'm sorry, no more than 10 degrees of play there, or 2 inches at the steering wheel. Got it? So now we got steering axle, tires. So I'm going to talk about these tires here. These have to be a virgin tread. They cannot be recapped. I don't want to see a recap tire. So, and if you're wondering what a recap tire is, it has like, you can see like a little gap where they adhere the tread to the case of the tire. So that's allowed on drive tires and trailer tires. You usually don't see them on the truck at all. You'll see them on trailers once in a while. All right, so these have to be virgin tread. The tread depth is not worn too thin. It's at least 4/32 seconds deep, evenly worn all the way around. There's no thin or flat spots at all. The Sidewalls here and here, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It's not cracked or leaking at all. I'm going to listen for air leaks. My tires have to be properly inflated. They can't be under or overinflated. I'm going to read the spec on the tire, and with the tire gauge, I'm going to inspect it here at the valve stem. First, that valve stem is clearly visible. It's not hidden anywhere or obstructed at all. It's not cracked or leaking. The dust cap's in place. And the last thing about this tire is sealed all the way around the rim. There's no exposed bead at all. The tire here is securely mounted. Do I have to say all that, Siegfried? Yeah.
Do we actually have to measure the pressure or?
No. This is what I would do. So you're not going to take out a tire gauge, but you said this is what I would do. No, no, but they might. So far we mentioned them in the book here, but they don't. No one's really asked questions about that. So they pretty much 2:30 seconds. Yep. I included that there in the event that they ask you for that. It's 2:30 seconds after the steers and the trailer tires, right? And those can be recapped. And dual tires, they have to be the same type and kind of tire. You can't have mismatched types and sizes. All right.
So 2:30 seconds, 4:30 seconds?
Yep. But you stay focused on this, okay? Because no one's really been asking any questions about the rest of it. So, are we good with the tires? Good. So rims. So here, I'm going to inspect the rims both inside and out to make sure there's no illegal welds. The metal's not warped, it's not crack bent or dented at all. And here at these lug nuts, I don't see any out of round or elongated holes. That could be a sign that my rim is loose. They want to hear that. Here at the rim, I don't see any out of round or elongated holes. If I saw some of those, that could mean that my rim is not truly securely mounted. Now let's talk about, we'll scrape that off here. Don't forget to do that. See what I'm doing? Read it off, point to it, talk about it, scratch it off, move on. See, this is what it's supposed to look like. You guys got it? If you guys don't do this, you're going to skip around. So lug nuts. I'm going to inspect all these lug nuts here. First, none of the lugs or the nuts are loose or missing. The lugs themselves are not broken or cracked at all. There's no shiny threads on the lugs at all. On these lug nuts, they're not cracked or loose. There's no gaps at all between the lug nut and the rim. They're all tight to the frame or tight to the rim. The lug nuts here are securely mounted. Okay. They want you to talk about the lugs, the nuts. We used to say rust trails. They don't like to hear that. They'd rather say that it's like, well, once more, I don't see any. With my Superman vision, I don't see any out of round holes behind these lug nuts. Okay? But seriously, if you had an out of round hole that was like this, you probably have a problem. Any questions on that? So it's okay, this is an interactive, this is a classroom for a reason. So if you got a question, I'll answer it. Okay. We got springs, mounts, and airbags and shocks. We don't have airbags up here. We only have them at the drive axle. I have springs right here.
Second.
You can come over this way. I have springs right here. I have spring mounts right here, and also back here. I'll follow that spring. I have U-bolts down here and right here.
That's a spring mount right
Springs, spring mounts, U-bolts, and then the spring mount in the rear there. And then I have a shock. Any questions on where to find things in the shock? So my cadence here is I first point to it. Are you guys picking up what I'm laying down? My springs, my spring mounts here, back here. Here at the axle, I have U-bolts, and I have the shock. Now I'll talk about the springs. The springs here, they're straight. None are missing. They're not scissoring. at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented, or rusted through. The U-bolts there, they're not loose or missing. I should have 2 of them. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts or shiny threads there. The springs are tight to the axle there. The spring mount up here in the front, and the spring mount here in the rear, they're tight to the frame. They're not sagging or loose at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all. And here up on the front and also in the rear, there's like this little metal bushing inside there. I might inspect inside there to make sure that the bushing is in place. It's not loose or missing. The rubber there is probably not weathered through or rotted through. You could do that too if you wanted to. How do you think I did? Got everything? No, I didn't. The shock right here is not cracked, bent, or dented, or leaking at all. The bracket up here is tight to the frame. It's not loose. There's no missing nuts or bolts or shiny exposed threads. The bushings on the top and the bushings on the bottom, they're not worn through, weathered through, missing. And if I thought I might have missed it, I might have said that the shock also is straight. It's not cracked, bent, or dented, or leaking. So if I repeat myself once or twice or a third time, they've heard it probably the first time or the second time, but at least they heard it, so I'm getting credit for it. So we're all human, right? So if we miss something, we'll just say it again. Cool. So then after that, then we got the brake lines or hoses and leaks. So right here we have, you can come in close here after Kevin comes in. Here's the brake hose. Right here. And here's the ABS line, right here. All right, so you can pan away there, Kevin, give someone else some time. So here at the brake hose, it's connected to the supply and the truck line right here. And it's also connected to this brake chamber right here. At its connection points, they're not loose, they're not cracked or leaking. I'm gonna listen for leaks at the connection points here and up there. And the hose itself, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It's not cracked or leaking. I'll listen for your leaks there. This ABS line, it's an electrical piece of equipment, so it's plugged in. So I'll point to where it's plugged in, right over here. It's also tied up. It's not loose to get tangled up on anything. And also there's no corroded or exposed or loose wires at all. The ABS line and brake hose are securely mounted. Make sense? Brake contaminants. So we'll come this way. I'm going to look inside the rim. Inside the rim, it must be dry. No oil or grease. Inside the drum, and also inside or on top of the lining, dry too as well. I'm going to look inside there to make sure that there's no signs of brake fade, no debris stuck in there, no big piles of grease and other things in there, all right? And that's basically brake contaminants. So in life, though, when you guys are checking that, the lining has to be at least 1/4 inch thick, evenly worn and dry too as well. So the lining is just the brake pad. So they can't be below the wear line on the linings. They don't do that anymore. They just want you to mention that I want to look inside there to make sure that it's free of oil and grease. And there's no signs of any kind of brake fade, because brake fade means brake failure. And you can say that to them. It's like, yeah, I don't want any signs of brake fade, like oil and grease. That's brake failure.
Don't the Fords have peepholes or something?
Yeah, the Fords have a peephole, have an inspection hole, so you'll point inside that inspection hole, and I'm going to look inside there. Okay. So, actually, you're going to be in the you're 0B, you're in the Chevy, so they have a little peephole too as well. And you're an automatic too, right? But you're doing the DA setup. All right, so that takes care of that. So now we got the side of the vehicle. So watch it, look. I'm going to close this like this. I'm going to come over here. I don't know if any of you watched my old videos, but I used to rattle through this stuff like super fast. Because I wanted to be so detailed, because I only had so much time to do it. But this is not timed. So you're going to be nervous, and you're going to want to gloss over things. Don't do that. Okay? Let's say if you start going off into some weird tangent, the examiner might say, I don't want to hear that. Scratch it off and move on. Okay? Side of the vehicle, lenses and reflectors. So really you're just pointing at the lenses here, that reflector here if you're in a manual. Do you see that reflector? There. Lens here, there, up here, there. And if you're in a B setup manual, you'll have a reflector going there and there, but you also have, in some trucks you have a reflector over here on the setup. We don't have one there. And then we also have them on the trailer there, right there, there. ABS lights are back there. So you point to all that stuff that's on the truck on the side of the vehicle. If you have a trailer, they want you to talk about the stuff on the trailer too.
When you do that, you're just going from one side to the other side.
I'm just doing one side, the driver's side. So here's a quick breakdown. Reflector here, lens here, there. There's a reflector here, I'll point to it. I point right here, there, here, and there. So I'll mention that here on the side of my truck and my trailer, the lenses and reflectors are all clean, clear, not cracked. None of them are loose or missing at all. They're all securely mounted. I have the proper color up front here, amber, and the proper color in the back of the trailer there, or back of the truck, which is red. That's it. Scratch it off, move on. So now they have this saying, traffic monitoring devices. So we don't have cameras or sensors. We have the old school ones, which is that thing between our ears and these mirrors. Right here, and these eyeballs. Right, so, but they just want you to talk about these mirrors. So the mirrors here and there, the metal, it's tight to the frame, it's not sagging or loose, there's no missing nuts or bolts. It's also not cracked, bent, or dented here or there. The housings here and here, not loose or damaged or cracked at all. The glass here and the glass here is clean, clear, not cracked at all. I don't have any loose or missing mirrors at all. The mirrors here are securely mounted. Good. Now we'll talk about battery. Go over this way. We're going to talk about the battery inside this box, or the batteries. The batteries inside this box, or the battery. Actually, the Fords now have batteries. So the batteries in the box. But first we're going to talk about the batteries. You can say I'd open up that box and inspect the batteries inside there. They're not cracked or leaking or bulging. There's no corrosion. They're securely strapped in. They're not going to loose or come loose at all. The electrical lines are connected at its terminals. There's no corroded, exposed, or loose wires at all. The batteries themselves are securely mounted. But they're also secured in this box. The box is not cracked, bent, or dented. The straps are not loose or missing at all. This latch hood is on tight. So the batteries themselves and the box are also securely mounted. Fuel tanks and depth tank. So we have a fuel tank right here and a depth tank right here. So here at the fuel tank, I'm going to make sure that the metal is not cracked, bent, or dented at all. I'm going to inspect all these welds to make sure there's no broken or missing welds at all. And here at the fuel tank, there has to be at least 2 straps. We have 2 straps right here. They're tight to the fuel tank right here. They're not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all. This gasket's in place. I don't have metal rubbing on metal at all. The hoses are connected up here to the tank, right here, right here. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. They're not cracked or leaking at all. This electrical line right here is plugged in. There's no corroded, exposed, or loose wires at all. I don't have any leaks on the top of the tank here. Nothing around the fuel cap. Nothing on the ground at all. This cap is on tight. I would loosen that cap to make sure that gas cap seal is in place. It's not missing at all. The fuel tank here is securely mounted. The depth tank is, we'll talk about the metal. The depth tank is tight to the frame. It's not sagging or loose at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all. The plastic here is not cracked or leaking at all. These hoses are plugged in right here. They're not loose at all. There's no abrasions, bulges, cuts. Nothing's cracked or leaking up here at all. Nothing's cracked or leaking around the depth cap here. That seal inside there is in place. It's not missing at all. The safety chain is here. There's nothing leaking underneath the depth tank. So the depth tank is securely mounted. Now we'll talk about frames. So if you're a Class B, you're going to talk about the truck frame. If you're a Class A, you'll also mention stuff about the trailer frame. Starting here, I'm going to inspect the truck frame and all the cross members here, and back there. Yep. So I'm going to inspect the metal, both inside and out, on the truck frame here to make sure there's no illegal welds on the truck frame at all. I'm going to look at the frame to make sure it's not twisted or sagged anywhere at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. None of these cross members are loose or sagging at all. They're not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all. Nothing's rusted through at all. My trailer here is not twisted or sagged anywhere at all either. All right, it's galvanized steel, so it's not going to rust through at all. But there's no broken or missing welds at all. Those ramps are locked up on the dry position. All those floorboards right there, none of them are loose or missing. There's no missing screws up there. The deck of the trailer is strong enough for my cargo. And I would crawl underneath that frame to make sure all those cross members are underneath the frame of the trailer. None of them are twisted or sagging or loose at all. They too are securely mounted. Okay? So that takes care of frame or frames. So now, the B guy on lights reflectors, you actually would talk about the rear of the truck. So you're just going to point at the reverse lights and the brake lights and talk about the lenses, okay? So, combination vehicle. So we got air and electrics, electric lines and connectors. So I'm going to come over here. Kevin, you can stay over that way. You guys come around this way. So here, I'm going to point out all the connectors first, okay? So you guys don't miss any of them. So I have a glad hand here and a glad hand here. I have the safety latch here. This is connected here and also connected right here. And you're going to follow these lines right here. You have connection points right here and right here. Right? Connection points right here and right here. You have a connection point here and here on the air hoses. Okay? You have an electrical plug-in right here. Can you come around and take a look at it? Electrical plug-in right there, right? And you also have one down here. Kevin is right there. So Kevin, you can step out so they can look at it. So connection points here and here, here and here, there, up there, and then we walk around this way. And what's more, we have the glad hands here and here, safety latch here, connected here and there. Okay? So starting with the glad hands, I have blue to blue and red to red. Right? They're locked right now. The seal in place. It's not weathered through, worn through. There's no dirt or debris in the seal. It's not cracked or leaking here at all or here at all. They're also connected to the supply line here and here at these connection points. They're not cracked or leaking or loose at all here or here. These hoses, there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. They're not cracked or leaking. I'm going to listen for air leaks all along here, around here, and at those connection points here. The electrical line right here, we have the safety latch. This is not missing. That spring's there. It's plugged in here. This bracket, there's no missing nuts or bolts. It's also plugged in here. There's also no corroded, exposed, or loose wires here at all. And then we have the connection points over inside here and here. Those are tight, they're not loose, they're not cracked or leaking here at these connection points. There's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts in these lines at all. I would listen for air leaks all along the lines. These connectors here and here, they're not cracked or leaking at all. They're not loose at all. I would listen for air leaks there. My electrical line too is plugged in right here. That's secured and tight. It's not disconnected. There's no corroded, exposed, or loose wires. All my air lines and electrical lines are securely tied up to the frame of the trailer. They're not sagging here loose to get caught up in anything. The connectors, air lines, and electrical lines are all securely mounted. Now we get to talk about the fun stuff. Fifth wheel skid plate. We don't have a pintle hitch or hook or tow hitch. We just have a fifth wheel skid plate. So when you talk about the fifth wheel skid plate, you're going to talk about how this is secured to the truck. So starting here, I'm going to mention this bracket right here, the platform itself, all these mounting bolts here. I'd look inside the frame and look inside the frame too as well, there. And then I'll talk about this plate right here. So the bracket here and here is tight to the frame. It's not loose at all. There's no sizable gap at all. Why is that? Well, I don't have any loose or missing mounting bolts at all up here. I don't have any missing nuts down there or shiny exposed threads there. Also, the platform is tight to the bracket and the frame. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented at all, or rusted completely through at all. There's no broken or missing welds at all here at the platform. The skid plate is not twisted or sagging anywhere at all. Here at its tilt, there's no missing pin or cotter key at all. Inside this skid plate, we grease inside there, so it's properly greased here at the zerks. The metal up here is not cracked, bent, or dented, or rusted through at all. We don't grease the top of the skid plate. In its place, we have this poly plate or plastic plate. It looks like that thing on the wall over there. So the poly plate is not worn through or missing at all. It's also the safe room in my trailer. My fifth wheel skid plate is securely mounted. Any questions there? Kingpin and apron and gap. So we don't have drawbar ring and or tongue or coupler and tongue. So we just have the kingpin, apron, and gap that we'll talk about. So coming around here, it's a little easier to see with the flashlight, but I have a kingpin inside here. Yeah, maybe if you got one. So I have a kingpin inside here. And you can come around us right here. Go ahead. That's fine. Don't be shy.
Look at the head of it. They don't get
Yeah, well, so we have the kingpin right here, and we have the head of the kingpin down here. Okay? So the kingpin is straight. It's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. The head of the kingpin's below the locking jaw where it should be. You know, it's not missing. Surprisingly, sometimes some bonehead will shear that off. It's not missing at all. It's securely mounted. The apron is right here. The apron is not cracked, bent, or dented. There's no broken or missing welds at all. It's not rusted through anywhere at all. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all or shiny threads at all. The apron is securely mounted. Now let's talk about the gap. I don't want to see a gap back here. If I saw a gap or sizable daylight between this apron and the skid plate, if I saw a huge gap, maybe about the width of the locking jaw over here, that would mean that my locking jaw is not on the shank or the neck of the kingpin where it should be. It could be on the head or somewhere else. And my trailer is not securely connected. In my instance, I don't have a gap or any daylight, but my locking jaw is around the neck of the kingpin, and my trailer is securely connected. I don't want to see a gap. So I'm going to explain what I would look for on why I don't want to see a gap. And then I'd also emphasize the fact that I am securely mounted because the locking jaw is around the neck of the kingpin. Make sense? Cool. Now we have locking devices. Locking or safety devices, there we go. So locking and safety devices. So what they're talking about is the release arm here, the release arm, and the fact that you have spring tension, because if you didn't have it, it'd be way out here. And then they're talking about this locking jaw right here. So starting with the release arm right here, this handle's not hanging out here, because if it were, my trailer wouldn't be connected. It'd be in the unlock position. Right now, I'm locked in the dry position. And that's done by the spring. The spring is not missing at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented at all. The release arm is securely mounted. The locking jaw over here, I'll come over this way. I mentioned that it's straight. It's not cracked, bent, or dented. It's also greased. And then I'm going to look inside there to make sure it's really where it needs to be, like where the shank of the kingpin is. And I want to make sure that that locking jaw or locking device hasn't, cracked on the inside, or there's a sizable gap between that and that. It might rattle itself loose. That's in the new manual. No gap or space between the locking jaw and the shank of the kingpin. Okay. Cool. All right. Now we'll trailer only, landing gear and clearance. So you guys can step out this way. You can go over there, just stay over there if you wish. All right. This is my landing gear here, and the clearance they want to talk about is this where this landing foot is. So are you going to mention that this foot right now is locked up in the dry position? It's not dragging too low or too close to the ground. So it's not going to hit any sizable bump in the road or anything else. Right up here, it's high enough and locked in the dry position. Here on this landing foot too, this pin's in place, it's not loose or missing at all. The metal's not cracked, bent, or dented. And because I like to play in the dirt, there's no rocks and debris and other things up there so when I'm driving down the road that I'm gonna cause some damage to somebody else behind me. The metal here is not cracked, bent, or dented at all. There's no missing nuts or bolts at all. It's properly greased here. No missing nuts or bolts or anything over here. And the handle's stowed away here. The landing gear and its clearance. It's all securely mounted. Cool. Any questions? All right. Reflective tape. So we have DOT approved tape up here on the front of my trailer, and also DOT approved tape here on the side of my trailer. In the past, they would want you to say that it covers at least 50%. That's not so much necessary now. You just want to mention that it's DOT approved reflective tape. It's all properly adhered to the trailer. None of it's loose or missing at all. It's all clean and clear, not obstructed at all. Security mounted. So the law is at least 50% on the side, 100%. In the rear of the trailer, especially van trailers, they have that rail, that stop rail for cars, so they'll shoot underneath the van truck. So they have it hanging low. But outside of that, if you have a flatbed or whatever, it's like they consider that 100% of the visual space. So there's a different parameter there. I won't go into it, but just kind of know that. That's for when you get the job, right, Siegfried? All right. So now we can talk about the rear of the trailer, lenses, and reflectors. As I come over this way, I might point out that this lens here on the ABS light too is not loose or missing at all. That ABS light is not loose or missing at all. It's not cracked, it's clean, and it's proper color. These are yellow or amber. Okay. And then back here I have the lenses and reflectors. It's really just these lights down here. They're clean and clear, not cracked at all. None of them are loose or missing at all. And they're all the proper color red and securely mounted. All right, so I'm going to do the light operations check. For me to do that, I need to start the vehicle and turn on the lights. So do you want to see a safe start? We'll show this again when we do the in-cab. But so in this instance, you would ask them if they want to see you start the vehicle. And most will go in there. And if they do that, you're going to say that my parking brakes are and trailer brake is engaged, my truck is in neutral, I can start the truck. That's what a safe start is. Do we have that? Is it good? You got that? Okay. So now I'm going to go up and do that. Notice the way I'm walking into the truck. All right, nice and safe. Okay? Did I jump out of that truck like Rambo? Can't do that, okay? So if they feel like you're unsafely exiting the vehicle, that could be grounds for failure. Or they just might have a severe problem with it, okay? So just take your time. So we're gonna do a light check. Follow me. I'm gonna check the, hold on a second. Kind of bright, they must have replaced the light bulb here. The low beams here, they're on and they're working. Make sense? The running lights here, there, on top of the cab and the mirrors. They're on and working. The running lights back here, they're on and working. Running lights right there is working. There, up here, down here, they're working. Working there. Okay. They're working back here, Kevin. Over this way. Over this way. Up there. Up here, over here. And up here. So I just got done with two of them, the low beam lights and the running lights. We got 7 of them. So now I'm gonna do the high beam lights. High beam lights here and there, they're working and they're brighter, right? That turn signal light works there. What's up here? Follow me, Kevin. That turn signal light works there. And also back here. You guys getting the picture? Yeah. All right. Hold up. So move around the truck. Now we're going to do the right side. Right signal's working here, working there, working there. And working back here. All right, so now we're going to do the hazards. I don't want to do that. You get the picture, right? All right. Hazards are working up here, working there, and here. Working back there. And working back here. Kevin, can you stand right over here? So, I need help with the brake lights. So I'll say, hey, examiner, can you help me with the brake lights? I'm going to cancel the hazard lights. And can you tell me if my brake lights are working on my trailer and my truck? Your Class B, obviously, your truck. Just give me the thumbs up if they're working, okay? basically, the deal here is that the truck's running, you have the lights on, a couple things happen. First, you're not going to kill your batteries. Second, you're building air in the system. So that way, when you go up into the truck, you have air to work with when you start out with the air brake check. Make sense? So that's why I leave this for 2. You good? All right. So one note on when you start up the vehicle, ask if they want to jump up in the cab with me so I can show you how to safely start this truck. Most will jump up in the cab with you, and then that's where you explain that my parking brake and trailer brake are engaged, my truck is in neutral, or point to it, and then start the truck. And then you'll say, let's go out and do the light check now. Okay? If they say, no, I don't want to do that, then when you come back up into the truck to do the in-cab portion of it, turn the truck off, point to them and say, I'm going to show you the safe start that I did. The parking brake, trailer brake's engaged. My truck is in neutral or here. And then I started the truck. Show them that, okay? Because it says in vehicle, start engine. So I think some examiners still want to see that. So you're going to show them how to safely start the truck. Am I heard loud and clear? Yep, cool. All right, so now we're going to break up into groups and kind of just do the in-cab portion of it. I'll explain the nuance of the B with you. Kevin, do you want to take a few of these folks?
Yeah.
All right, cool.